All right, we live.
Hey,
Hey, y'all.
what up?
All right.
All right,
This is how we starting the day.
This is when two podcasts combine. We have Unapologetically Dope. Actually, we got four, because you got Misfit Mondays, and then you got Unapologetically Dope, and then you got the Fluffy Fella, and then you got Dope Society Podcast in the building. So, y'all, welcome our friends, the Jenkins, to the
Hey,
show.
girl. Hey.
What up, dude?
Hey, so I know y'all have heard, and everybody has been watching. This has been like the hot topic for the past week or so. This Netflix movie, we just gonna dive right into it. Malcolm,
The greatest movie ever written.
I don't know about all that. But before we dive into this movie, first of all, let our guests introduce themselves. Tell us about yourselves, Dope Society Podcast.
Hey, listen, we just have a platform where we want you to do better.
No cap.
And so, we inspirational, motivational. We also get you together, and you know where to find us.
Out here in the trap.
It's going down.
I'm looking like this because I am grieved,
stressed
about this topic already.
Not stressed, not perfect.
I'm traumatized from watching the movie.
This light is lying on me.
Okay, y'all gonna have to get used to.
Lord have mercy.
To our special guest, she thinks she's dark skinned.
I am dark skinned. I don't know what y'all see. Fix it. Wipe your cameras off.
No, it's still there.
Still.
It's okay to be red bone in a sea full of chocolate. It's okay.
Look, I don't know why she want to be dark skinned so black. I am more than dark enough for the both of us.
Yo, I can't with y'all. I can't.
But okay, so let's talk about this movie. I'm gonna let Jamont, since this is such a profound piece of art to him, I'm gonna let him lead this conversation. Go ahead.
I wish I had a tomato to throw at Jamont.
So we still calling people their government names. Okay, all right, all right. So I guess I get that because I started this whole drama. Listen. So if you have not seen it, this is a warning. We're gonna give some spoilers. I still personally think that you should watch this movie. I think that it will, if you actually watch the movie itself, you will get a lot out of it as to where we're at as a society and what we're dealing with when it comes to relationships. There was a lot of thought. There's a lot of thoughting in it.
Thoughting.
There was a lot of thoughting in there. But it was a lot of also talking about mental illness, emotional disabilities or whatever, drug addiction. It did everything that we do not talk about in the Black community. I feel like it summed it all up in one time. I enjoyed it personally because I have lived that entire scenario from beginning to end.
Jesus.
And so it was like a memoir of my life and an experience that I had in a relationship summed up. So for me, it was like, thank you for going out and telling our story. And I said thank you this time. Unlike him, I was appreciative of the act of what they did. But I thought it was a great movie overall. I mean, she threatened to kill him. That's normal.
That's normal. That's normal.
Yeah,
that's normal. Threatened murder. That's normal.
That's completely normal.
Perfectly fine.
Okay.
She threatened to kill him. She told him she loved him. Then she told him she wanted to kill him again. Then she said she was going to leave him. Then she loved him again. Then he did the same thing. I mean, it was a normal conversation. It seemed very normal to me.
Normal.
The fact that you think that this movie is normal makes you emotionally obtuse and abnormal, man of God.
And in dire need of therapy. This is traumatic.
So I am in I am in therapy. We've established that. But I'm saying that to say this. So, in all seriousness, this movie sums up what we as in our generation deal with relationships. There is this codependency that is so strong
Mhm.
that it has become a cripple for us to where we don't communicate, and we don't communicate efficiently. So we'll say we want something, we'll say we did something, or we'll ask somebody to do something for us, but in reality, we're not being fully transparent about what we want. So like, okay, so let me start here, and then I get some responses from you guys. In the beginning, when she established, first of all, we're gonna talk about the macaroni and cheese later, but when she established
You mean the water
that
and the noodles?
the water and noodles, when she established that she was not upset that he didn't say thank you to her, she started the conversation incorrectly, and he knew he did wrong, but she did not call him out initially up front. So what were your thoughts on that dialogue?
Can we talk about the first 10 minutes of this movie? He literally is just running his mouth. And she's going through all of this emotion. You can clearly tell she is bothered. But he is not paying any attention. And when he does try to come over to say something to her, he sexualizes her. His immediate response to try and make her feel better was to be like, "Oh, you so sexy," and all this stuff
See,
like
I
this.
don't think it was him trying to make her feel better though. I think what he was doing was trying to avoid the conflict, because most of us, when we're in any type of relationship and we don't want to deal with what we have to deal with, we bring sex into the equation because sex makes, it's not true, but we think sex makes everybody happy
What
because we've
we're
been
gonna
programmed that
do,
way.
or what we're gonna advise, is to watch our language, because this is not absolutely normal. This is not normal.
It's not.
And
Correct.
At
in a
all.
It's not. It's
healthy,
not.
in a healthy state, a healthy mindset, people do not do that. So we will not address it and say most people. We're going to say from our personal experience, or something like that,
So
because we can't put a handle on
You can't generalize abuse.
well,
Right.
relationships.
okay, so okay, not to generalize it, but I mean, as you know, I pay attention to a lot of things people write on not only blogs, Facebook, Instagram, TV, things like that. So if we look at generationally what we've done as a society, we've made sex what love really is,
Mhm.
right?
I
Agreed.
agree. Some people do
So
equate sex
so
to love.
so what I'm saying is, and I guess let me break it down so it's more clarified. He's showing her that even though I didn't say thank you to you publicly, the intimacy shows me or shows you that I love you. It's avoiding the topic of discussion, of not being publicly acknowledged, but being privately ridiculed. And now everybody's silent.
So
No, we were silent because we were digesting what you were saying.
I have
But I,
I have
but I
two
stopped
different
talking
thoughts.
because I was letting our fellow participants talk. So go ahead and finish saying what y'all was gonna say.
I have two different thoughts. I think that there are certain words that have become things that we have fallen in love with in our culture. Being a communicator is one of them. So we automatically lean to the art of communication in this particular movie. But when we think of the art of communication, there is another part to it, and it's listening. And I think that this generation is full of people that don't know how to listen. We know how to put together words. We know how to create vivid imagery verbally, but we don't know how to listen. And in listening, I think is bigger than just hearing words. It's about reading body language. I also think that she made a pot of ramen noodles and put cheese dust on it and thought he was gonna be okay.
That part and
Um,
put butter in it.
that and some butter. And I think that there's a lot of things in that particular moment that like really made me cringe because it was so like that's an undertone thing. Like there are so many women who think that if they serve their man some Easy Mac, he gonna be satisfied, and that's not okay. And
It's
so
fact.
I
That's factual. I believe.
like
I believe with
it's
that.
and so but she gave him what he gave her. And when we think about the dysfunction of relationships in this generation, we have so many that movie was full of tit for tat nonsense. And what happens is if there aren't people talking about how toxic that movie was, what it does is it amplifies the thought that this is something that's normal, and it's not. Bless you.
Correct. Correct.
But the way we get around normalizing it is that we start having conversations about what well relationships look like, because we don't have a lot of great examples, to be honest. As far as people being transparent about what they deal with in relationship and how they choose consistently to love each other every single day. I think that this particular movie is probably it is very, very, very realistic as far as what people deal with and what people are going through, because we are inept from a standpoint of actually really communicating how we really feel. We have learned how to play cat and mouse with words to get what we want, or to feel as though as we are very standoffish or nonchalant emotionally, that it'll produce the results that we are looking for. And so we don't know how we feel for real. We don't know we don't necessarily know how we feel. We don't know what to feel, and we don't necessarily know what feelings are because of trauma from our childhood that needs to be addressed. And so this particular movie could potentially weaponize an entire generation to be emotionally inept. We have to begin to have conversations about what it looks like to be healthy all the way around, or we will have children that don't know how to feel anything, and it'll be even worse than what it is now. So instead of having 16 and 17-year-olds out here committing murder because they feel heartless, it'll go down to 10 and 12-year-olds. It'll be looking like Afghanistan out here.
Correct.
And so,
Agreed.
and so we have to be, I agree with what Sean said. We can't normalize Malcolm and Marie.
Right.
We literally need to take the opportunity to say this is not right, especially because these were Black people that were depicted in this particular movie.
And that's the key thing too. That this is something that we need to talk about in the Black. I'm honestly joking. I think it's cinematically, I thought it was a great movie, but the issues that were brought up was what makes it great. Because we don't talk about this in society anymore. We don't talk about the mental health issues that are developed from drug addiction and things like that. And when you get into a relationship and you're not fully healed, that toxicity comes in and you can literally destroy somebody else. And it's just another person that you've destroyed, and you're okay with it because we're not dealing with the problems. We're not having conversations. We're not going into therapy. We're not communicating with each other. And then, like you said, Jamar, the listening part is the important part. We're not listening to each other. It's all about what I want.
Or we're listening, but we're listening for something. We're listening so we can have a response.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because they did a lot of that.
Yep.
Like they would go off and then come back after they prepared in their mind what they were going to say. And I'm going to read you. And the other person now is listening for what is the trigger in what you're saying. And once you hit my trigger, I'm not listening anymore. Now I'm thinking of my comeback.
Yeah, I'm building my response.
I am building a case against you based on the one thing that you said, because to be honest, that movie was a trigger for me, and it could be a trigger for a lot of other people. Mental health issues do not just come from drug addiction. Mental health issues can stem from terrible relationships.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like when you get in the mindset of someone speaking to you and cutting you down all the time, that's why I'm big on building my children up. The world is going to do enough cutting down. So I have to do extra building to ensure that I put safeguards around their mind, because you will start to believe what someone says about you. You will start to believe, you know, even though this was said for the sake of argument so I could win, your emotions, your heart doesn't know how to separate the trash in argument from the truth in argument.
Right.
So you accept all of that as reality and you live in that. And so I think that this movie should start a conversation. And it's not just about not having the ability to listen, but listening as a weapon. Because they listened as a weapon.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Trust, what you got to say?
Well, Sean said a lot of what I was about to say, because I was like, literally, that entire banter that they had was literally them trying to listen to see, all right, there you go. That's what I was waiting for you to say so that I can come back with this. It was like they were playing a game of spades mentally. Like, you may have an ace, but I got a joker. I'm finna throw this joker out here. Oh, you think you got a joker? Well, I'm finna slam the big joker on the table. Now what? It was so much of that. And I'm like, at what point do we stop talking and literally be like, okay, what is in me? Because you have to think about that too. If you literally are that antagonistic with somebody, what is it in me that gets satisfaction from breaking you down to the smallest common denominator before we can move forward? Because it's something inside of you internally that you might want to check as well. If you're okay with being in that type of banter, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you're okay with, like, there was one point in time where Malcolm said something to her that cut her. I mean, it cut me. And that way I was like, I ain't never did that. But my God, if a man said that to me, I'd be cut. He said something so harsh to her about her. And I was just like, Jesus, like, at what point do you, and then I think it was right before she yelled, I hate you. And then he yelled, I hate you too. And then they start growling at each other. I'm like, if it's gotten to that point, y'all need to really just leave each other alone.
Well, and that was like, if you observe too, literally there were times when each one of them walked away. And during
but they
that
were walking
time,
away to plot. It wasn't
correct,
a walk
that's what
away
I'm saying.
to like reset. It was like a boxing match.
When you
I'm
walk
gonna go to my
away
neutral
like
corner, that round is over.
Exactly. When you walk, but that's what I'm saying. Like, when they walked away, that should have been the opportunity that they took to assess the remaining conversation that could be had. But instead, it was, and you can feel the tension through the movie. You can literally feel, okay, she went into the room and he's sitting there and you look at his face and it was like, oh, she ain't getting off that easy. Especially on the part when she talked about how the movie was about her. And he says, nah, we're not going to let this slide. Let me tell you exactly who the movie was about. And when you start,
that's the part I'm talking about, when he named all them different women.
When you go to that depth, after somebody's already walked away from you, like that just shows a malice that you don't do that to somebody you love, or that you've told that you love, or that you say that you're in love with. You don't consciously go back and say, you know what, I'm about to rip this apart. Because his goal, what was the goal? The goal was to make her feel like she was less than nothing. There was no building up.
Let's talk about this too. It was so many times in the movie where normally, you know, we talk about makeup to break up, right? So we're going to have makeup sex because, you know, we've had all of this banter and it's been really bad and this is about to be passionate. But the argument and the desire to win blocked intimacy.
Correct. Because they were on the couch being intimate, being lovey-dovey after the first clash. They literally were at that point. And then in her mind, she's like, I can't let this Negro off the hook.
Yep.
I can't. Like, no matter how sweet he is, no matter that I'm laughing and smiling, no matter how close we are. Because if anybody's been, you know, when you're in a relationship and you get that close to somebody that you love, usually everything else that y'all dealt with goes out the window.
Yeah.
But for her, it was, nah, you're not getting over that easy. I don't care how many times you've apologized, or not even say this, how many times you said I'm sorry without she didn't feel like it was sincere. I'm not gonna let that slide. I don't care how many times you kiss me, how you hold me, none of that. I need to make you know how less than you are. And that's where this movie, like I said, this movie was very informative on what we need to talk about in our community.
Absolutely.
Now, I
Because
think that there
here's
was
the
a.
thing:
Go ahead, Jay.
the backdrop, that house that they were in,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, they living well and going through hell at the same time.
Yes.
The
Like,
studio had them set up.
that's a real thing. Like,
Yeah.
to be able to put the imagery in a space where people have achieved what some people desire from a standpoint of success. He's so wounded he couldn't even take a compliment from a
From a
critic.
writer. Exactly.
Did you see that they were in their house was very nice, but it was also mostly glass?
Yeah, people in glass houses.
Throwing stones.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was
Yeah.
so many layers
It
to.
was a lot. Like I said, that's why I say cinematically, it was a marvelous piece of work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what was my rave about it. I'm glad that they had the conversation because it was needed. But I'm also glad that they literally pulled all those, even the simple fact that when she walked out the house and he couldn't find her, he panicked.
Right,
He was worrying about where she was at, even though he just literally broke her down to the bare minimum of being a human being.
bruh.
But the moment she wasn't where he needed her to be,
He freaked
he
out.
was in. He started freaking out, and that we get there, especially as men. We have this ability to make everybody else feel less than, but we cower when somebody walks away from us.
That's a fact.
But you
We
know
don't.
what? She said something, Jamont. And just to you can finish your thought because it's gonna piggyback off what I'm about to say. She mentioned to him, she said, you have the ability to draw everybody in, and then you compartmentalize us until we're ready to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the
Yeah.
fact that, yeah, you give us all this love to capture us, but once we're in your special space, you neglect to take care of the things that you put in their special space.
And
You're
that's a
a
wounded
prisoner.
man. He's a wounded man.
A
It
very
wasn't.
wounded man.
It was amazing to hear what his mom was a professor, I think it was, or a doctor, but he had this great background, but he had no stability. He
Yeah.
was
But to
he
me,
was
it
the
seemed like he was trying to, like, he came from a very well-to-do background, and she mentioned that to him. She was like, "You love to try and act like you know the struggle or you are part of the struggle, but what struggle do you know when all of your family is successful?" And I'm like, okay, yeah, his family has money, but you're neglecting the fact that he could have a mental health issue.
well, yeah, and that's what I was going to because I'm going to talk for me as a black man, me as a black man in society, and the things that I've experienced of being racially profiled, of being looked over for positions at jobs because I was a black man. So these are all things that have literally grown with me as I become an adult, and I never dealt with any of those issues. And that came to light when he was talking about how the critics never really understood him. He always
Mm-hmm.
felt looked over. So he took that trauma and he incorporated it into his relationship because he wanted her to feel as if I'm superior to you. If nobody else is gonna make me feel superior in this house, I'm superior.
The funny part about it is when you think about part of us were looking at the movie and it's like, man, I wish one of y'all would be like, man, we need some help. But the hard reality is broken people don't know they're broken until somebody looks at them and tells them they're broken.
Correct.
Yeah.
And no matter how many people you bulldoze through in life, until somebody looks at you and tells you that hard truth, because you're not gonna run up on it on your own. Like a broken mirror doesn't look at itself and say, man, look at that crack.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
it's unfortunate, but somebody has to look at the mirror and say, man, who did this to you? And in the same regard, we have so many people that really need somebody to say, man, who did this to you? To be able to acknowledge the fact like this is not okay. Like
Right.
this isn't okay. And the fact that you went back for seconds on that raggedy macaroni and cheese is not okay.
It's not okay.
It's not
That's
okay. I'm
trauma,
gonna tell
right
you out
there.
of what that was one of them things in the movie because that's a pain point for me. Like you can't give me And to think about the beautiful extravagance of their home, the the way they were dressed, the everything they just went and experienced, the environments they were in, and they came home, and he was excited and satisfied about boxed macaroni and cheese.
It's
But
crazy.
and if you looked at the bar was all top shelf liquor.
And it was so stereotypically black though, because we'll put money in the top shelf liquor and eat trash.
Yep. And
Mm,
that's there's this, like I said, that's just a whole nother,
Priorities.
that's a whole nother layer there.
You know what I mean?
It's a whole nother
We'll
layer.
put money into things that culture has said is socially acceptable for us to look like we got it all together. So when you
That's
go to the
crazy.
house, it's like, oh, you don't got the regular, you got the expensive bottle of this and the expensive bottle of that. Oh man, I know we about to eat good. Oh, let me bust down this box Velveeta. Like it doesn't. But when you're dealing with people who nobody knows how to appreciate the things that we're supposed to appreciate, people will pat you on the back and big you up about living in a glass house, being toxic and abusive to each other, and then you wake up in the morning and go stand beside each other and look out into the sunrise. Like, well, we get to do this again for another 24 hours.
Right.
Yeah, like there was literally no healing at all.
Right.
There was no
Could it be?
healing at all.
Could it be that the boxed macaroni and cheese with that powder, and could
That
it
water from
be
the
that
tap.
that is symbolic of what we eat spiritually, or what we digest, or what we take in, and then that's why we give out what we give out in relationships? Like, what if it wasn't about the food at all? What if it had a deeper meaning? Like,
I'm sure it
so
did.
you're
It
eating
probably did. It probably
trash.
did.
You're eating trash. You are eating, you are living in this. You are, because what we don't know is who their other relationships are with, who you hanging around. What are you really, really eating that's got you mentally in a place that you have to tear down another person in a way and call that love? Pain and love, like not just surviving together, but almost codependent in order to operate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the macaroni and cheese was tough as well, because in a part when she made the macaroni and cheese, she, well, no, a little after, she says, and I came home and I made you macaroni and cheese. And it's as if this is a consistent struggle that they have, because mind you, if anybody paid attention to the words that were said, the studio paid for them to have that home, which means that the studio was taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have somebody that's already taking care of you, and you do not know how to adequately supply yourself with a meal, that lets you know that there's a problem.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
Tara had something.
What I was gonna say is that when I looked at the macaroni and cheese, I looked at it as the difference between authentic and manufactured. Their whole situation was manufactured.
That's
There's
good.
no authenticity in the love that they have. What they're giving is an
Oh,
illusion of a
that's
relationship,
deep.
an illusion of happiness, an illusion of something with substance. But when you get down to it, that ain't your grandmama's mac and cheese. That's not your grandmama's
Mm,
relationship.
yep.
One of the things that really like popped out to me about them was that it looked like it was a trauma bond. I do not want a relationship where I bond with you over my trauma, because God forbid one of us actually gets healed, then what's left?
Correct.
So I think that
Correct.
that's the reason why they just kept tearing each other down, because the minute one of them would get a little piece of success, like him with his premiere, he literally started the conversation by saying, "Can we just have one good night where we don't argue?" And she like, "Nah, we can't have no good night, because if you have a good night tonight, you're gonna expect every other night to be good, and I'm not here for that." If you
Wow.
pay attention to the conversation. So it was like and then he even says to her, "God forbid I have a life outside of you." And then he comes again and he
Yeah.
says to her, "You need to figure out when she was in that bathtub, and after he ran through that list of women, he said, you
Hmm.
need to figure out what's wrong inside of you that wants you to constantly deal with pain. The only way you're happy is if somebody's hurting you." And I'm just like, but you need to do the same thing, because you stand there and let her berate you. Both of y'all need to go look in the mirror. But are you looking in the mirror?
They are looking in the mirar,
and you just don't realize it.
That's a part of that. But there was that codependency. So like, a scene that really got to me. That really, I'm not gonna say. I'll say it spoke to me. It rained. It was really loud. So the part when she expressed that she wanted his support because that role was designed for her, and she wanted to be an actress. And he said his words were, "If you wanted it bad enough, you would have went and got it bad enough." And in my mind, I'm saying no. If you are a partnership, you support her dream of being an actress, and you push her, and you do everything you possibly can because it is your film to work with her on the film. And then after that, she made the statement, "But I was there for every edit. I was there every time the script needed to be rewritten. I did everything, but you did not allow me to be a part of something that could have made us both grow together." And I felt like when that statement was made, when they had that conversation, I was like, a lot of us are doing that within our own relationship. We are being crabs in a barrel, and we are not pushing each other up together. But when one person is driving, we're pulling them down.
That's good. That is so good. Like to see the element of competition in relationship is it honestly is sickening because at the end of the day, like from jump, I'm like, man, so he just had a premiere. And I'm looking at it from a husband's perspective, right? And so I'm like, man, when he just had his premiere, like I'm thinking, man, if this was me and my wife at home, we going up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we going in and I'm gonna be celebrated and all of that. And so from the beginning, I was like, oh, this ain't gonna be good.
Nope.
Just because he's like excited and she in the bathroom like annoyed. Then she came and slapped that pot of water on the stove. And I'm thinking like my wife would have had the king's dinner prepared. You know what I'm saying? And so from jump, it was just like, we're not celebrating each other. We're gonna tear each other down. He could have come from getting a Pulitzer Award presented to him by President Barack Obama, and she still would have tried to piss in his cornflakes.
Yep.
You know, while I was watching that with you, I kind of thought in the beginning, and you can't really make any decisions in the beginning,
right?
Because we don't really know what's going on. I need this thing to develop. But in the beginning, I was like, how selfish of you is what I thought of his wife. Like, you are one selfish individual because he didn't say thank you to you specifically, Okay, so as it kept going on, and then he lied several times during the whole conversation, like blatantly lied. No, I didn't get seconds of macaroni and cheese. Like just stupid stuff. He was just lying. Like, so then
that's not something to lie about.
He said something to her in the bathtub about her slitting her wrists with the nail clippers.
Yeah.
Right. And then he went through all this list of women. And then he went and said the end part was about you. But then when he was reading the review from the lady, she said specifically about the girl trying to slit her wrist with the nail clippers.
Correct.
Yep. I said, so you done lied again about this story not really being about her. And you just said that you just don't want to give her credit.
Yes.
But you knew from the beginning it was about her, because when she sat at the table and she was like, who is this about then? If it's not about me, who is it about? Who's your inspiration? And he looks all crazy eyed and he's like, a lot of people. She's like, a lot of people who? I think at the end of the day that he just wanted to make a name for himself, and he didn't want to share the limelight. He wanted to become successful. And a lot of times I honestly think what it was is his hero syndrome. Because he literally, when he named all the women he had went through, he was something like a savior to every single one of those women.
Yep.
So if you, because remember he had a previous movie that bombed, that failed, and then this movie hits. So if I'm successful because of you, that kills my hero narrative. Because no Batman wants a Robin.
Correct.
I want to save the day all by myself. I want to be Superman. So for him to be like, nah, it ain't about you, but every scene is literally about her. And then to forget to thank her is because you did. Because if you would have thanked her and people would have researched her life, they've been like, that whole movie was based off of her.
Right.
Which then shifts the narrative off of you and your movie back to her. Which you
Him
didn't want to
thanking
happen.
her also would have diminished his power.
Right.
Correct.
Like, I'm giving you a piece of my power.
Yeah, it was that I allowed you to be a part of this film. How can you allow somebody to be a part of something that it's about them?
Unpopular opinion. A lot of relationships fail because men don't check their egos at the door about wanting to be a woman's superhero. There's a difference between me being my wife's superhero and me being her husband. Because in being a husband, the H literally stands for humility as far as I'm concerned. That's the space where I can be wrong. That's the space where I can miss it, I can bomb and all of that. But if I walk in this house and I set an expectation for myself to be a hero, it'll never work because that's idolatry. And so just from a standpoint
that
of
one more
being a
time.
man, this thing is dangerous because so many men approach women in relationship as though they are saving them from something. Like everybody in relationship is not some project that you're supposed to be fixing. I want somebody that I can grow with. And so that narrative, that idea in and of itself it disgusts me. Like I feel a great a holy yuck. Like just because it's so cultural though, man. Like there are so many women who feel as though they need to be subjected to a man being their hero for them to be appreciated in relationship. And so you have this false idolatry going on in relationships where nobody's really growing and everybody ends up tearing each other down even further. Because the moment the kryptonite shows up, you're not a hero no more. You're a human.
That part. I just need for people to realize in relationship and even in marriage, not to be all biblical and stuff, but we are who we are.
We are who
we are. When God created woman, he literally pulled woman from his side, from his rib. He didn't pull him from the foot bone. He didn't pull her from an ankle. He pulled her from his side. We think submission means that beneath. That is not what submission means.
Nope.
She can stand beside you and have her own light shining and not diminish your light. If you allow that woman to shine, it draws more to you anyway. So I think that a lot of times in relationships, there's this thought process of I can't be me. I've got to diminish myself so that he can be great, so that we can be great. But what people who are really doing this thing right and really winning is when they know she can be great and I can be great and we can be great together. And that's when we produce momentum. That's when we produce movement. But you got to, like you said, you got to check your ego at the door. I was on a line with like a podcast conversation or whatever, and they were talking about relationships, people looking for people to complete them. But anything that can complete you has the ability to also deplete you when it leaves. So you have to be mindful that when you walk into a relationship that you're already whole. And if you're not already whole, that you're doing to work to get there as quickly as possible. And you have to even be willing to state in that relationship, hey, these are the issues that I have. This is what I bring to the table from a mental health perspective. Are you willing to deal with these things? And if they, can't deal with it, then God bless you, God keep you. There's the benediction. But a lot of times what happens is you get in these situations like Malcolm and Marie, where you have voids that need to be filled. And instead of being mature enough to take a step back and say, you know what, this ain't working, you will stay in toxic situations for the sake of saying, I got a situation.
that is it. I think that even in considering my own marriage, I firmly agree. The only way I will ever be great is if my wife is great with me. It's the only acceptable way for me to be great. And we have to introduce that language into relationships, and even friendships. Like, not even the step past the romantic aspect of Malcolm and Marie. Like, I don't want to be friends with people that don't want me to be great.
Correct.
And I don't want to be friends with people that I don't want to be great.
Correct. Yeah.
And if I'm entering that type of relationship with the idea that I only want you to be great to a certain limit because I don't want you to outshine me, I need to check myself. And if I start to feel it off of you, I'll create a safe distance. Like there's a lot of platonic relational issues that showed up in that movie that, man, that may be a whole nother podcast, because people have friendships like that too. Honestly, most friendships, as far as millennials are concerned, you see this type of behavior a lot more in friendships.
Yeah.
Where it's super toxic and messy. I have watched people on my social media timeline go back and forth with people that they were friends with. I mean, go all the way out with each other.
Yep.
And then 3 weeks later, they sitting down like, what's understood don't have to be explained.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it
that's
do, because
crazy.
it played out publicly. I need to know what y'all doing.
It need to be explained.
I need an explanation, because at this point it's on social media, so we all in this relationship together.
Yeah. That's one of the main reasons I refuse to put something on social media, because if it don't work out, I owe y'all an explanation as to what happened.
You sure do.
Because just like it's the internet aunties, the internet kids, the saints gonna want to know what happened. Fill us in. This was our relationship. So yeah, that's why you have to be careful what you put on social media, because if you live your life for social media is going to request and demand an answer for everything that you've ever said or done. So you got to be careful of what you put out there. Only put out there, that's just a warning to the body of Christ. Only put out there what you're willing to answer for at a later date.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct. Facts.
But you're right. You're so right about that. Like, I can be honest. I have been in friendships where you have been that person that you have done all that supportive work for them. You've helped them get to a certain place. And you like, bruh, all I want is you to just say thank you. I mean, that's it. Like, and so I felt what she meant by now. Of course, I ain't finna do all that toxic stuff that she did. But I felt where she was coming from, where she was like, bruh, all I wanted was a thank you. I ain't asking you, like, he was like, you want a writing credit? You want that? She was like, I ain't want all that. I just wanted to thank you.
You know,
Because
I was gonna say, acknowledgement is probably the most emotional thing for a lot of us. Just to be acknowledged, to say thank you for what you've done, like that will warm a spirit more than anything else in this world. Because you feel like you're a part of society, you're a part of something. And you don't have to have nothing written down, but just saying thank you will, I feel warm when somebody says thank you and they mean it.
Yeah. I think that now I'm thinking about her role, her character's role in this movie. And the unfortunate thing is there's a lot of men that have stood on the shoulders of a lot of women to become very successful, and they never said thank you.
Yeah.
And it's not okay. And you know, I'm sure that there's gonna be some man somewhere that's like, oh man, you selling us out. I don't care, and you probably can't beat me. And so just being absolutely honest, I think that as men, we overall, I want to make sure that this is a very general statement. As men, we don't do a good job of consistently appreciating our women for what they do, what they deal with, and what they stand with us through. Because she was there when the movie bombed, and then allowed herself to be an inspiration for him, because she wasn't strong enough to be like, you know what, nah, I need a check for this. And he took full advantage of that. So the movie also it would lean itself into potentially weaponizing the next opportunist to go and find some chick off the street, clean her up, and try to mimic what's in the movie. Because we live in a copycat generation.
Correct.
And so it is it's definitely a big thing. And even after this show is over, I'm gonna talk to my wife and make sure that she feels appreciated, because it's a thing. And that's from a very sincere place. We need to make sure that we are being accountable as men and women, to make sure that the same way I'm making sure that she feels appreciated is the same way she probably gonna look at me, and she probably gonna make a pan of macaroni and cheese by the end of this week.
The right way, right?
Look,
the
listen,
right
she
way.
gonna make it the right way though.
Yes, God.
Right.
Listen, I'm tell you, if my wife tried to put some easy mac in front of me,
Come on,
do you understand the toddler-like reaction I'm gonna have? I'm gonna slap that thing off the table. Get this mess out of here.
That's so serious. But let me tell y'all what happened today. So I have I have several people that I converse with, I love very much. And I saw a person that I hadn't seen in a while, and I was like, oh, I miss you. And they was like, no, you don't, because you ain't called me. Babe, don't phones work in two directions? So if I didn't call you,
and you looking for me,
then could you not have very well picked up your device?
But that comes in as a female. Women, we have to take account for our inability to effectively communicate sometimes.
What's that?
Our inability to effectively communicate sometimes. Because even going back to the movie, she says, well, I changed my mind. I'm upset now. But she never told. But here's the thing. She wasn't upset initially, but she did not tell the truth. She didn't tell the truth. The reason why she was upset, she wasn't. She told him that she wasn't upset. She reassured him that she wasn't upset.
It was because the people kept bringing it.
She got upset because the females kept coming up to her saying, oh, well, don't think nothing of it. But what really made her upset was when the lead actress, who he had been spending all his time with, came and said, oh, don't think nothing of that. She was being messy.
I think that she was upset initially.
Initially, she wasn't, because remember he says that.
But listen,
you rubbed my hand.
How many times have we said that we were not upset with somebody?
See, here you go.
Or we say, I'm good. It's all good. But deep down, we are hurt. But we don't want to let you see our hurt, because that makes us vulnerable.
I'm gonna tell the truth.
But see, that's so was she hurt or was she angry? So she could have been hurt.
I think she was hurt, but the anger built as everybody else, because even his mother was like, baby, he didn't mean it.
So she was not. She could have very well not been angry at first. She could have been hurt by it, like, oh. But then once it was confirmed over and over and over, now you're mixing the pot of my hurt and I'm manifesting anger.
Right.
So the seed was sowed. What I'm saying is the seed was sowed earlier. It honestly was. And you know what? As a man, I don't care how many times you rub my hand and tell me it's okay, don't worry about it. I want to reassure you that I really made a mistake. I screwed up. I'm sorry. And at that point in time, you take the extra effort to acknowledge her in a public platform. And I feel like if that would have occurred, because they were there all night, they were walking around, they were greeting people. He could have easily, during that time, said, you know what, my fault, and he could have corrected it. But because, like Jamar said, he wasn't being humble, there was no humility there. It was all about him and his shine. He didn't even.
But how do you forget? I almost don't have no sympathy for him in that moment, because how do you forget the entire inspiration for your success?
He ain't forget.
That was intentional.
Okay. All right.
He did not forget.
Okay.
That was all intentional. Because you know what? If I want to, I'm gonna take it to a whole nother level. And if you hate me, you hate me. But he didn't want his side boo to not get the acknowledgement, and because think about it, the woman that he was with this whole time, and now he may have said he didn't sleep with her, but I don't think that's true. The lead role lady got all the props, and he didn't want to take away from the woman that he spent all these months with outside of his wife. That's how I read that. I read that like, okay, I'm going to acknowledge everybody from the organization. I'm going to acknowledge the woman I spent all this time with, not the inspiration, but the one that I actually have to deal with during that time frame. And my wife will be okay. It's not even
It would have
wife.
been a
My
short movie
girlfriend
to
will
try
be
to cut
okay.
him for real.
Listen,
but I mean, that's how I honestly feel about it.
I was thinking like, boy, to actually go through that premiere, have all of these conversations, go through all of this stuff, play nice, take a whole car ride home. I'm thinking about my wife right now, and I'm thinking my wife would be like, I'm gonna drag you to God and leave you there when we get home.
Yeah.
Like
home. Here's the thing, home. What make you think we would have left this event and it would not have
I'm
been
gonna take
a
that
show?
steering wheel and we all out of here.
There would have been a show. Look, there was an after show after the movie premiere.
Listen,
in the parking lot on the stairs.
But yeah, that's what,
because he had to walk back to his seat. There would have been a commotion.
And then we didn't even touch the music and how each song really helped.
Oh, they was being passive aggressive with their music.
Because even when she
played,
oh man, because after he said all that song, he plays a song that tells her I love you. Why couldn't you just say it, my brother? Man, and then she played the song. You gotta go.
And Jamal, you know this about me because I've shared this with you multiple times. That movie in itself was like the perfect depiction of passive aggressive, and I can't stand passive aggressive people. Like it makes me itch. You want to see me really like delete and remove myself from a situation? Let there be some passive aggressive mess going on. I don't have time.
Passive aggressive gaslighting. That's all they was doing.
Listen, I will run faster than the road runner away from anything passive aggressive.
Now, something that was said earlier was you said that it was a seed that was planted. But here's the thing: seeds don't grow without proper soil, proper light, and being watered. So you have to think about whatever came up and out of her was because you took the time to nurture that thing. So in all of her going crazy, panicking, every moment that they went through that premiere, every moment they were silently in the car, every moment that you got to that house and she made you that dry macaroni. And then when he came to the house, you turned the music up sky high to tell her, you look good, girl, I love you. Why you couldn't say it? Why it had to be yelled over some music? What's your issue with face-to-face telling me how you feel about me?
There was no personalization and there was no connection from the moment they walked in the door. They literally went two separate ways. They did not go in the same room together. There was no, baby, nothing. It was, and I think I'm gonna say like alcohol also played a large part in this conversation as well.
Oh yeah.
Because he was lit when he got in the door.
But I felt like he was drinking, like he kept drinking, because it was like
he drank the whole night.
To him, that's his vice that gives him courage to even have these conversations.
That was the gas in the tank.
That was it.
Because a sober him, he looked to me as if the sober version of him cannot handle Marie
at all.
Like she drives that car when he's sober.
That's apparent because if she's cheated on him these several times that he was fully aware of with his people, and he knew it, but he didn't have the ability to step away from the relationship. That in itself shows he did not have the fortitude to really to man up. And the liquor allowed him to man up.
Right.
But he manned up the wrong way.
That was crazy to me. I'm like, wait, she slept with who? Oh, no.
That speaks to the black man's inability to handle confrontation.
Correct.
Like it's so much there.
It's a lot. That's why I recommend, and I've recommended a lot of people to watch the movie. And when you watch it with an open mind. Watch it with a mind of intelligence to know that okay, he may sound like Denzel Washington, but it ain't Denzel. Okay, we know
Not
that.
at all.
But watch it for literally every cue that occurs in the movie that literally is hitting on what some of the things that we are not communicating about in today's society. Watch it for that purpose. Watch it to see her response. Watch it to see his response. And then, honestly, if you watch it and you see things about yourself in that, then it's time to have a conversation.
Yeah, you definitely got to watch this for the metaphors because it's not the presentation of the dialogue because it'll completely go over your head and you'll be like, this is a garbage movie. All they doing is fussing, going back and forth. I ain't here for that. Click, turn it off. But if you watch it and you listen with the intent to learn, which is what we talked about at the very beginning, you got to listen for the intent to learn, not to respond. Then you'll grow and you'll gain something from this entire movie.
And that's what I told Tara, because Tara first started watching it. She was
The
like,
first time I
"This is
watched, I ain't gonna
this
lie,
is trash."
this is trash.
And then I said, "T, you got to watch it and really watch it." And that's just something I do with movies. I don't have to watch it twice, but I want to see what the story is really about. I want to see what we're communicating about because there's an art to it. And usually when I read the reviews before I actually watched the movie, I read not the review, I read how it came about was Zendaya and the writer actually came together and came up with the development of this movie. And they wanted to hit on things that we are not communicating about at all in today's age. And I feel like they did that. And I feel like that's why we're having the conversation now. If you think about it,
Yeah.
like one movie allowed us to join together and have an hour-long conversation about things that we have seen, not only in our own personal relationships in the past, but things that we've seen other people post on Facebook, the trauma that people are dealing with that they're not talking about. So if you when you watch it, yes, we may have given some spoilers, but I'm telling you, you watch it on your own, you will get your own insight and your own revelation about things that you may have never even thought about.
So long story short, take a chill pill and heal. That's what everybody need to do. Take a
Yep.
chill
That's it.
pill
Everybody.
and heal.
Everybody.
Everybody.
So any final remarks from Dope Society Podcast? Because we've been on here 57 minutes and 36 seconds.
You have anything before I say what I gotta say?
I'm Sean LJ Jenkins on all social media platforms, Sean_7 on Twitter. I was saying on my other podcast today that I will be Twitterizing more frequently.
Come on, Twitterizing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this was a good conversation, and I think it needs to go beyond just this, like friendships, relationships. Were they even married? Like,
I don't believe they were married.
Nah, they weren't. They were dating. He asked her to marry her in the middle of chaos. Tell me that ain't some stuff. No, that's a whole nother
that's
subject.
crazy.
I was
That's
like,
a whole nother
That's
subject.
crazy.
Cussed each other up one side and down the other, and then sent each other from heaven to hell and back. And then you have the audacity to propose in the middle of all this.
Yeah. I didn't even want to touch that. That in itself.
That's crazy.
That's wild. But
So that's all I had. Go ahead, baby.
I am the tremendously distraught Jamar Jenkins 83 on every platform. And Jamar Jenkins on Facebook. At Dope Society Podcast on Instagram. At Relationship Over Religion LLC on Instagram.
Oh, the podcast came out tomorrow.
New podcast dropping tomorrow. Those are all the plugs for everything. As far as this movie is concerned, it is not my concern is that the immature will watch this and it'll weaponize brokenness. And so that's my concern. My word to the wise is proceed with caution. And then most importantly, take a chill pill and get whole. And don't make nobody no raggedy behind macaroni and cheese.
Don't do it.
At all.
Any last words, J Money?
Well, I'll do my shameless plugs. This is Mr. Evo, aka the Fluffy Fellow. You can catch me at Mr. Evo _84 on all social media platforms. Or if you want my government name, it's Jamont Harris on Facebook. On Twitter, it's Mr. Evo 84 as well. Concerning the movie, like I said, well, forget the movie. I I am a firm believer, and I'm going to be 100% serious right now. You need to seek therapy. We all, at some point in time, if you've been through anything, you've been through any struggles, it's okay to seek therapy. I've been in therapy since November. It has immensely helped me through the depression, anxiety, and a lot of the hatred I had towards people in my life. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in order to get healed, I had to talk to somebody who literally doesn't want anything but for me to be healed. They don't have any other motives but to see me healed and be able to have a successful life and have a successful relationship, not just within a partnership, but in friendships as well. So I recommend if you see yourself in anything that we've talked about tonight, or if you have any trauma that you're dealing with, please take the time out, go get some counseling. It's effective, and if you really put the work in, it will benefit your life in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
I really recommend that. I strongly do. And listen, God, we gotta in it. You can't enjoy life if you're miserable every day.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't.
Absolutely.
So that's my word to the wise. That's my moment of clarity. That's my love, and I love that the Jenkins was on tonight.
I was gonna say, man, thank y'all
Yes.
for having us,
Yes,
man.
thank you.
We hadn't caught up and chopped up like this in a minute, so we definitely appreciate y'all inviting us on over to
It
y'all
was
neck of the
double
woods.
dope. Well, my
What's up,
last
T?
words, and I'm gonna close us out. What you conceal can't heal. At the end of the day, you need to start having conversations, good, bad, or indifferent, with somebody concerning your life. Don't take broken pieces of you, don't take fragmented pieces of you into a whole relationship. Like, deal with the fragments of you and then try and do a relationship. We hope that something was said that touched your hearts and all your parts. Make sure that you subscribe to Dope Society Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to Unapologetically Dope. Make sure that you are listening to Misfit Mondays. Make sure you're listening to Fluffy Fellow. We got some dope black people doing some dope black things. Make sure that you get merch from at Relationship Over Religion. I got shirts. Jamont got shirts. We got shirts on our co-host right here. So please make sure that you are subscribing to All Things Black. It's Black History Month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Do that.
is.
Yeah, listen, so
Yeah, it is.
support the Black movement, because it is indeed a movement to wholeness. We're moving away from the brokenness of our past, and we're trying to be whole. So, all right, you guys, enjoy your night. Thank you for chilling and rocking with us. And we love y'all. We love everybody that's watched. All right, y'all be safe. And remember,
Don't
we are
forget to be
unapologetically
dope.
All
Peace
right.
out.
See y'all.